Question 1. Explain the legal implications of a property encroaching on a coastal construction control line in Florida. A. No significant legal implications. B. Reduced property taxes. C. Possible legal action and requirements for additional permits. D. Mandatory property sale. Answer. C. Possible legal action and requirements for additional permits. Explanation. Encroachment on a coastal construction control line in Florida can lead to legal action against the property owner. It may also require obtaining additional permits or taking corrective measures to comply with coastal protection regulations. Question 2. Describe the process and legal requirements for converting a residential property into a commercial property in Florida. A. No specific legal requirements. B. Filing a simple notice with the local municipality. C. Obtaining zoning changes, adherence to commercial building codes, and possible public hearings. D. Payment of a conversion tax. Answer. C. Obtaining zoning changes, adherence to commercial building codes, and possible public hearings. Explanation. Converting a residential property into a commercial one in Florida typically involves obtaining a zoning change, ensuring a property meets commercial building codes, and possibly participating in public hearings or community meetings. Question 3. What are the consequences of violating Florida's Fair Housing Act in a real estate transaction? A. A warning from the state. B. Temporary suspension of real estate license. C. Legal penalties including fines and potential license revocation. D. Mandatory community service. Answer. C. Legal penalties including fines and potential license revocation. Explanation. Violating Florida's Fair Housing Act can lead to severe legal penalties, including fines, and in the case of real estate professionals, potential revocation or suspension of their license. Question 4. In Florida, how does the doctrine of constructive notice affect real estate transactions? A. It has no effect on real estate transactions. B. It requires actual knowledge of property defects. C. It imposes the responsibility to know of recorded documents. D. It relates only to commercial transactions. Answer. C. It imposes the responsibility to know of recorded documents. Explanation. The doctrine of constructive notice in Florida real estate law holds that individuals are responsible for knowing the contents of recorded documents that may affect property interests, regardless of actual knowledge. Question 5. Discuss the legal considerations for a real estate agent when representing a seller in a short sale in Florida. A. No special considerations are required. B. Ensuring the highest possible sale price. C. Obtaining lender approval, accurate property valuation, and compliance with all disclosure requirements. D. Focusing solely on expedited sale closure. Answer. C. Obtaining lender approval, accurate property valuation, and compliance with all disclosure requirements. Explanation. In a short sale, a real estate agent in Florida must consider obtaining lender approval, ensuring accurate property valuation, and fully complying with disclosure requirements to protect both the seller's and buyer's interests. Question 6. Explain the significance of the Marketable Record Title Act, MRTA, in Florida real estate. A. It simplifies the transfer of title to real estate. B. It increases the complexity of property transactions. C. It applies only to agricultural land. D. It has been repealed and is no longer significant. Answer. A. It simplifies the transfer of title to real estate. Explanation. The Marketable Record Title Act, MRTA, simplifies the transfer of real estate titles in Florida by extinguishing certain old claims and interests in the property, thereby clarifying and simplifying the title. Question 7. Scenario. A commercial property in Florida is found to be in violation of ADA compliance after a sale. What are the implications for the new owner? A. The previous owner is responsible for all modifications. B. No implications as ADA compliance is not required post-sale. C. Required modifications to meet ADA standards and potential legal liability. D. A tax credit for any necessary adjustments. Answer C. Required modifications to meet ADA standards and potential legal liability. Explanation. If a commercial property is found non-compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, after a sale, the new owner is responsible for making necessary modifications to meet ADA standards and may face legal liability for non-compliance. Question 8. How does Florida's Save Our Homes Amendment impact property tax assessments and cap increases? A. It eliminates property taxes for primary residences. B. It imposes a higher tax on investment properties. C. It caps annual increases in the assessed value of homestead properties. D. It reduces property taxes based on income. Answer C. It caps annual increases in the assessed value of homestead properties. Explanation. Florida's Save Our Homes Amendment limits the annual increase in the assessed value of homestead properties, capping it at a maximum of 3% per year or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower, to prevent sudden and significant increases in property taxes. Question 9. What is the Florida Homestead Law, and how does it affect asset protection and estate planning for homeowners? A. It protects a portion of a home's value from property taxes. B. It provides automatic insurance coverage. C. It offers immunity from forced sale under certain circumstances and can impact inheritance. D. It applies only to agricultural properties. Answer. C. It offers immunity from forced sale under certain circumstances and can impact inheritance. Explanation. The Florida Homestead Law protects homeowners by providing immunity from forced sale under certain circumstances, excluding specific lines, and affects estate planning by limiting how the homestead property can be inherited if the homeowner has a spouse or minor children. Question 10. Describe the legal process for resolving a boundary dispute between neighboring property owners in Florida. A. Verbal agreement between neighbors. B. Mandatory arbitration by a real estate agent. C. Property survey, mediation, and potentially litigation. D. Immediate court intervention. Answer. C. Property survey, mediation, and potentially litigation. Explanation. Resolving a boundary dispute in Florida typically involves obtaining a property survey to determine the exact property lines, followed by mediation between neighbors. If unresolved, the dispute may escalate to litigation in court. Question 11. Explain how the Florida Real Estate Commission, FREC, handles cases of unlicensed real estate activity. A. They issue a warning. B. They encourage voluntary compliance. C. They investigate and may impose penalties, including fines and legal action. D. They refer all cases to local law enforcement. Answer. C. They investigate and may impose penalties, including fines and legal action. Explanation. The FREC actively investigates unlicensed real estate activity. If found guilty, individuals may face penalties, including fines and legal action, as practicing real estate without a license is a violation of Florida law. Question 12. What are the fiduciary duties of a real estate broker to their client in Florida, and what are the potential consequences of breach of these duties? A. Only duty is to secure the best price. B. Loyalty, confidentiality, obedience, disclosure, accounting, and reasonable skill and care, with potential legal and professional consequences for breaches. C. No fiduciary duties are required in Florida. D. Sole duty is to complete the transaction quickly. Answer. B. Loyalty, confidentiality, obedience, disclosure, accounting, and reasonable skill and care, with potential legal and professional consequences for breaches. Explanation. Real estate brokers in Florida owe fiduciary duties, including loyalty, confidentiality, obedience, full disclosure, accounting, and reasonable skill and care to their clients. Breaching these duties can lead to legal repercussions and professional disciplinary actions. Question 13. Scenario. A property in Florida is subject to a Liens for Unpaid Homeowners Association, HOA dues. Explain the process and implications of this line. A. The line is automatically void after a year. B. The property can be foreclosed upon to satisfy the line. C. The line only applies to commercial properties. D. The HOA must forgive the dues after 2 years. Answer. B. The property can be foreclosed upon to satisfy the line. Explanation. If a property in Florida has a lion due to unpaid HOA dues, the HOA may eventually foreclose on the property to recover the owed amounts, subject to certain legal procedures and notices. Question 14. Discuss the impact of Florida's Environmental Protection Act on real estate development projects. A. It requires all real estate projects to include green spaces. B. It limits development in certain environmentally sensitive areas and requires impact assessments. C. It only applies to waterfront properties. D. It has no real impact on development projects. Answer. B. It limits development in certain environmentally sensitive areas and requires impact assessments. Explanation. Florida's Environmental Protection Act impacts real estate development by placing restrictions on development in environmentally sensitive areas and requiring environmental impact assessments for certain projects to ensure minimal harm to the environment. Question 15. How does the Burt J. Harris, Jr. Private Property Rights Protection Act protect property owners in Florida from inordinate burdens imposed by government actions? A. It provides direct financial compensation. B. It allows property owners to sue the government for compensation when government actions inordinately burden their property. C. It exempts property owners from certain regulations. D. It only applies to agricultural land. Answer. B. It allows property owners to sue the government for compensation when government actions inordinately burden their property. Explanation. The Burt J. Harris, Jr. Private Property Rights Protection Act allows property owners in Florida to seek compensation if government actions disproportionately burden their property rights, particularly when these actions do not amount to a taking but still significantly affect property value or use. Question 16. Explain the legal framework governing timeshare properties in Florida, focusing on buyer rights and cancellation periods. A. Buyers have no cancellation rights. B. Strict regulations with a 10-day cancellation period and full disclosure requirements. C. Buyers can cancel any time within the first year. D. Only applies to international buyers. Answer. B. Strict regulations with a 10-day cancellation period and full disclosure requirements. Explanation. Florida law provides strict regulations for timeshare properties, including a mandatory 10-day cancellation period during which buyers can rescind their purchase without penalty and requirements for full disclosure about the timeshare property. Question 17. What is the significance of the Florida Building Code for new construction and renovations in real estate? A. It is a voluntary set of guidelines. B. It outlines mandatory standards for construction and renovations to ensure safety and compliance. C. It only applies to commercial buildings. D. It regulates interior design choices. Answer. B. It outlines mandatory standards for construction and renovations to ensure safety and compliance. Explanation. The Florida Building Code sets mandatory standards for building construction and renovations in the state, ensuring structures are safe, sustainable, and compliant with regulations, including those for energy efficiency and hurricane preparedness. Question 18. Scenario. A property owner in Florida discovers archaeological artifacts on their land. What legal obligations do they face regarding these findings? A. They can keep or sell the artifacts. B. Mandatory reporting to state authorities and potential preservation requirements. C. No obligations, as the artifacts are considered personal property. D. They must donate the artifacts to a museum. Answer. B. Mandatory reporting to state authorities and potential preservation requirements. Explanation. Discovering archaeological artifacts on private property in Florida typically requires reporting the find to state authorities. The property owner may face certain preservation requirements or restrictions on the use of the land, depending on the significance of the findings. Question 19. Discuss the implications of Florida's water rights laws on property development near navigable waters. A. Unrestricted development rights for property owners. B. Development is generally prohibited near navigable waters. C. Specific regulations and permitting requirements to protect water rights and environmental quality. D. Only affects properties in flood zones. Answer. C. Specific regulations and permitting requirements to protect water rights and environmental quality. Explanation. Florida's water rights laws impose regulations and require permits for development near navigable waters to protect water rights, environmental quality, and public access, ensuring responsible and sustainable use of waterfront areas. Question 20. How does the Florida Landlord-Tenant Act address security deposits and their return to tenants? A. Landlords can keep all security deposits. B. It requires landlords to return security deposits within a specified period after tenancy ends, less any lawful deductions. C. Tenants forfeit security deposits after vacating. D. Security deposits are not regulated. Answer. B. It requires landlords to return security deposits within a specified period after tenancy ends, less any lawful deductions. Explanation. The Florida Landlord-Tenant Act mandates that landlords return a tenant's security deposit within a specified period after the tenancy ends, minus any deductions for damages or unpaid rent, provided they follow certain procedures, including giving proper notice of deductions. Question 21. Scenario. A real estate agent in Florida is selling a property with a known history of sinkholes. What are her disclosure obligations? A. Disclose only if asked by the buyer. B. No obligation to disclose past sinkhole activity. C. Fully disclose all known sinkhole activity and remediation. D. Provide only general information about the area's geology. Answer. C. Fully disclose all known sinkhole activity and remediation. Explanation. In Florida, real estate agents are legally required to disclose all known sinkhole activity and any remediation efforts undertaken on a property, as failure to do so can lead to legal consequences due to the material impact on the property's value and safety. Question 22. Explain the concept of assemblage in real estate and its potential impact on property values in Florida. A. Combining multiple small properties into one larger parcel to increase overall value. B. Dividing a large property into smaller lots. C. Renovating old properties to increase value. D. Merging commercial properties only. Answer. A. Combining multiple small properties into one larger parcel to increase overall value. Explanation. Assemblage in real estate involves combining two or more adjoining properties into a single larger parcel. This process can significantly increase the total value of the property, often more than the sum of the individual parts, especially if the assemblage creates a parcel suitable for larger developments. Question 23. What legal considerations must be taken into account when handling a property transaction involving a trust in Florida? A. Trusts cannot legally hold property in Florida. B. Ensuring the trustee has the authority to sell and that the trust terms are followed. C. The buyer must also form a trust. D. Special tax implications only. Answer. B. Ensuring the trustee has the authority to sell and that the trust terms are followed. Explanation. When a property in Florida is held in a trust, it's crucial to ensure that the trustee has the legal authority to conduct the transaction and that all actions comply with the specific terms and conditions outlined in the trust agreement. Question 24. Describe the process and implications of a property being declared as a historic landmark in Florida. A. No special process or implications. B. Property taxes are eliminated for historic landmarks. C. involves a nomination process and can lead to restrictions on alterations and eligibility for tax incentives. D. Mandatory public access to the property. Answer C. Involves a nomination process and can lead to restrictions on alterations and eligibility for tax incentives. Explanation: when a property is declared a historic landmark in Florida, it typically undergoes a nomination process and, once designated, may be subject to restrictions on alterations to preserve its historical integrity. Owners might also be eligible for certain tax incentives or grants for restoration and preservation. Question 25. How does Florida's Sunshine Law affect the conduct of real estate business by government bodies? A. It has no effect on real estate. B. Requires government bodies to conduct all real estate negotiations in public meetings. C. Only applies to state-level real estate transactions. D. Mandates public disclosure of all real estate prices. Answer: B. Requires government bodies to conduct all real estate negotiations in public meetings. Explanation: Florida's Sunshine Law mandates that state and local government bodies conduct their business, including real estate negotiations and decisions, in public meetings to ensure transparency and public access to governmental processes. Question 26. Scenario: a Florida homeowner discovers their property is on a floodplain after purchasing it. What recourses are available if this was not disclosed? A. The homeowner has no recourse. B. Legal action for non-disclosure against the seller or real estate agent. C. Request a government grant for flood mitigation. D. Automatic reduction in property taxes. Answer: B. Legal action for non-disclosure against the seller or real estate agent. Explanation: if a homeowner in Florida discovers their property is on a floodplain and this was not disclosed during the buying process, they may have legal recourse against the seller or the real estate agent for failing to disclose this material fact, which can significantly affect the property's value and the owner's obligations. Question 27. In the context of Florida real estate, explain the difference between a special warranty deed and a trustee's deed. A. No significant difference in Florida. B. Special warranty deeds guarantee clear title, while trustees' deeds do not. C. Special warranty deeds offer limited title warranty. Trustees' deeds are issued by a trustee in a trust or foreclosure. D. Trustees' deeds are for commercial properties only. Answer: C. Special warranty deeds offer limited title warranty. Trustees' deeds are issued by a trustee in a trust or foreclosure. Explanation: in Florida, a special warranty deed provides a limited warranty of title, only guaranteeing against defects that arose during the grantor's ownership. A trustee's deed, however, is issued by a trustee in the context of a trust administration or foreclosure, often without any warranty of title. Question 28. What are the legal implications of an implied warranty of habitability in Florida residential real estate? A. The property must have luxurious amenities. B. The landlord must ensure the property meets basic living and safety standards. C. It applies only to new construction. D. The tenant is responsible for all property repairs. Answer: B. The landlord must ensure the property meets basic living and safety standards. Explanation: the implied warranty of habitability in Florida requires landlords to maintain rental properties in a condition that is fit for living, ensuring basic safety and health standards are met. Failure to do so allows tenants to pursue legal remedies, including withholding rent or terminating the lease. Question 29. Scenario: a property in Florida is being sold with an undisclosed easement that significantly affects its use. What legal actions can a buyer take after discovering the easement post-purchase? A. No action, as easements are always public record. B. Seek rescission of the sale or damages for non-disclosure. C. Pay to have the easement removed. D. Mandatory arbitration only. Answer: B. Seek rescission of the sale or damages for non-disclosure. Explanation: If a significant easement affecting a property's use was not disclosed in a real estate transaction in Florida, the buyer may have legal grounds to seek rescission of the sale, undoing the transaction, or sue for damages resulting from the non-disclosure. Question 30. Discuss the legal framework for zoning variances in Florida and the process for obtaining one. A. Zoning variances are not allowed in Florida. B. Automatic approval with a fee payment. C. Application to the local zoning board, demonstrating hardship and compliance with specific criteria. D. Only available for residential properties. Answer: C. Application to the local zoning board, demonstrating hardship and compliance with specific criteria. Explanation: obtaining a zoning variance in Florida involves applying to the local zoning board and demonstrating that the strict application of zoning laws creates an unnecessary hardship. The applicant must also show that the variance is consistent with the general intent of the zoning code and will not adversely affect the surrounding area. Question 31. Explain the implications of Florida's full disclosure law in real estate transactions. A. Only applies to commercial real estate. B. Requires disclosure of all material facts affecting the value or desirability of the property. C. Sellers must disclose their financial situation. D. Mandatory disclosure of all previous owners. Answer: B. Requires disclosure of all material facts affecting the value or desirability of the property. Explanation: Florida's full disclosure law in real estate requires sellers to disclose all material facts that could affect the value or desirability of the property. This includes defects or issues that are not readily observable and known to the seller. Question 32. How do Florida laws regulate advertising in real estate, particularly regarding fair housing and ethical standards? A. No specific regulations on real estate advertising. B. Strict guidelines to prevent discriminatory language and ensure truthful representation. C. Only applies to online advertising. D. Advertising is self-regulated by real estate agencies. Answer: B. Strict guidelines to prevent discriminatory language and ensure truthful representation. Explanation: Real estate advertising in Florida is subject to strict regulations, including compliance with fair housing laws that prohibit discriminatory language based on race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, or national origin. Additionally, advertisements must provide truthful and accurate information about properties. Question 33. Scenario: a property in Florida is found to have been built with materials that violate current environmental regulations. Who is liable, and what are the potential remedies? A. Only the contractor is liable. B. The current owner, with remedies including modification, fines, or potential litigation. C. No liability as the property predates the regulation. D. Liability falls on the local government. Answer: B. The current owner, with remedies including modification, fines, or potential litigation. Explanation: if a property in Florida is found to violate current environmental regulations due to its construction materials, the current owner may be held liable. Remedies can include modifying the property to comply with regulations, potential fines, and in some cases, litigation. Question 34. What is the Florida Real Estate Recovery Fund, and under what circumstances can it be accessed? A. A fund for real estate agents facing financial hardship. B. Compensation for victims of fraudulent real estate practices by licensed agents or brokers. C. A grant for first-time homebuyers. D. Emergency funding for property damage. Answer: B. Compensation for victims of fraudulent real estate practices by licensed agents or brokers. Explanation: the Florida Real Estate Recovery Fund provides financial compensation to individuals who have suffered monetary losses due to the fraudulent or dishonest practices of a licensed real estate broker or sales associate. The fund serves as a means of recourse for victims of such misconduct in real estate transactions. Question 35. Describe the implications of the Coastal Barrier Resources Act on real estate development in Florida. A. It promotes development in coastal areas. B. Restricts development in designated coastal barrier areas to protect natural resources. C. Only applies to commercial developments. D. Mandates special construction materials in coastal areas. Answer. B. Restricts development in designated coastal barrier areas to protect natural resources. Explanation. The Coastal Barrier Resources Act impacts real estate development in Florida by restricting development in designated coastal barrier areas. This federal act aims to protect natural coastal barriers for their environmental, recreational, and storm protection values by limiting federal financial assistance for development in these areas. Question 36. Scenario. A Florida real estate brokerage is accused of not properly supervising its agents, leading to unethical practices. What are the potential consequences? A. A formal warning. B. Revocation of the brokerage's license and possible legal penalties. C. Mandatory retraining for all agents. D. A small fine. Answer. B. Revocation of the brokerage's license and possible legal penalties. Explanation. If a real estate brokerage in Florida fails to properly supervise its agents, leading to unethical practices, it can face serious consequences, including the revocation of its license and potential legal penalties. Brokerages are responsible for ensuring their agents comply with legal and ethical standards. Question 37. In Florida real estate, what constitutes a material fact, and what are the obligations of a real estate agent in disclosing such facts? A. Material facts are minor property details. B. Any fact that affects the value or use of the property, which must be disclosed to prospective buyers. C. Only facts about property size and age. D. Material facts are only relevant in commercial transactions. Answer. B. Any fact that affects the value or use of the property, which must be disclosed to prospective buyers. Explanation. A material fact in Florida real estate is any information that can affect the value or use of a property, such as defects, environmental issues, or legal encumbrances. Real estate agents are obligated to disclose all known material facts to prospective buyers. Question 38. Discuss the impact and legal considerations of title clouds in Florida real estate transactions. A. Title clouds have no impact on transactions. B. They increase property value. C. Title clouds can complicate transactions and require resolution for clear title transfer. D. They are only relevant for inherited properties. Answer. C. Title clouds can complicate transactions and require resolution for clear title transfer. Explanation. Title clouds, such as lines, disputes, or undisclosed heirs, can significantly complicate real estate transactions in Florida. They must be resolved to ensure a clear title can be transferred to the new owner. Failure to address title clouds can lead to legal disputes and challenges to ownership. Question 39. Scenario. A Florida landlord faces a discrimination lawsuit under the Fair Housing Act. What defenses might be available to the landlord? A. Claiming ignorance of the law. B. Demonstrating compliance with fair housing practices and absence of discriminatory intent. C. Transferring property ownership. D. The Fair Housing Act does not apply to private landlords. Answer. B. Demonstrating compliance with fair housing practices and absence of discriminatory intent. Explanation. In a discrimination lawsuit under the Fair Housing Act, a Florida landlord can defend themselves by showing they have complied with fair housing practices and did not have discriminatory intent in their actions. Proof of consistent and fair treatment of all tenants or applicants can be a key defense. Question 40. How do Florida's laws address the issue of property flipping and its potential impact on the real estate market? A. Encourages property flipping through tax incentives. B. No specific laws addressing property flipping. C. Regulations to prevent fraudulent practices and protect buyers, such as mandatory disclosure of recent sales history. D. Mandatory waiting period between consecutive sales. Answer C. Regulations to prevent fraudulent practices and protect buyers, such as mandatory disclosure of recent sales history. Explanation: Florida law addresses property flipping by implementing regulations designed to prevent fraudulent practices often associated with rapid reselling of properties. These include requirements for disclosures about the property's condition and recent sales history to protect buyers from being misled about the value and history of the property. Question 41. In Florida, what are the legal ramifications if a real estate agent fails to verify the accuracy of a property's listing information? A. No consequences, as accuracy is the seller's responsibility. B. The agent could face legal liability and professional disciplinary action. C. A fine payable to the state. D. Mandatory additional training. Answer B. The agent could face legal liability and professional disciplinary action. Explanation: In Florida, if a real estate agent fails to verify the accuracy of a property's listing information, they could be held legally liable for any misinformation or misrepresentation. This can also lead to professional disciplinary actions, including fines, suspension, or revocation of their license. Question 42. Scenario: A buyer in Florida purchases a home only to discover undisclosed defects caused by the seller's DIY renovations. What legal actions can the buyer take? A. Seek compensation or rescission of the sale due to non-disclosure. B. No legal action, as DIY renovations are exempt from disclosure. C. Report the seller to the local housing authority. D. Request a free renovation from the seller. Answer: A. Seek compensation or rescission of the sale due to non-disclosure. Explanation: In Florida, if a buyer purchases a home with undisclosed defects, especially those resulting from the seller's DIY renovations, the buyer can take legal action against the seller. This may include seeking compensation for the undisclosed defects or rescission of the sale, depending on the severity of the issue. Question 43. Explain the impact of Florida's Growth Management Act on real estate development and urban planning. A. It restricts all new development in urban areas. B. Promotes sustainable development and efficient land use. C. Only applies to coastal regions. D. Focuses solely on commercial development. Answer: B. Promotes sustainable development and efficient land use. Explanation: Florida's Growth Management Act impacts real estate development and urban planning by promoting sustainable development practices. It aims to ensure efficient use of land, protection of natural resources, and adequate provision of public services, thereby guiding the growth and development in a manner that benefits the community and environment. Question 44. How do Florida's water laws, particularly concerning riparian rights, affect property owners adjacent to bodies of water? A. Grant unlimited water usage rights. B. Provide the right to access and use water, but with certain restrictions. C. Prohibit any use of adjacent water bodies. D. Apply only to commercial properties. Answer: B. Provide the right to access and use water, but with certain restrictions. Explanation: In Florida, property owners with riparian rights have the right to reasonably use the water adjacent to their land, such as for irrigation, boating, or fishing. However, these rights come with restrictions to ensure that the use does not adversely affect the water body or the rights of other users. Question 45. Scenario: A Florida condo board implements a special assessment for major repairs after a hurricane. What are the implications for condo owners? A. Condo owners can opt out of paying the assessment. B. Mandatory evacuation of the condo until repairs are completed. C. Additional financial contribution required from condo owners. D. The assessment is covered by insurance. Answer: C. Additional financial contribution required from condo owners. Explanation: When a Florida condo board implements a special assessment for repairs, especially after a hurricane, Condo owners are typically required to contribute additional funds to cover the costs of these repairs. This assessment is above and beyond the regular condo fees and is essential for addressing significant repair and restoration needs. Question 46. To discuss the process and criteria for a property in Florida to be designated as a wildlife habitat and the implications for property owners. A. Any property can be designated without the owner's consent. B. A formal application meeting specific environmental criteria with potential tax benefits and usage restrictions. C. Automatic designation for properties over 10 acres. D. Only properties with endangered species qualify. Answer. B. A formal application meeting specific environmental criteria with potential tax benefits and usage restrictions. Explanation. In Florida, property owners can apply to have their land designated as a wildlife habitat if it meets certain environmental criteria, such as providing habitat for native species. This designation can offer tax benefits, but may also come with usage restrictions to protect the habitat. Question 47. In the context of Florida real estate, explain the significance of a covenant running with the land. A. A temporary agreement between the current property owners. B. A permanent legally binding restriction or obligation that passes with the property title. C. A covenant that applies only to commercial properties. D. An optional agreement that can be altered at any time. Answer. B. A permanent legally binding restriction or obligation that passes with the property title. Explanation. A covenant running with the land in Florida is a legal obligation or restriction tied to the property itself, rather than the owner. It is binding on future owners as it passes with the title to the property, affecting and benefiting successive owners. Question 48. Scenario. A commercial property in Florida is found to be non-compliant with new environmental regulations. What steps must the owner take to comply, and what are the potential penalties? A. Immediate closure of the property until compliance is achieved, with potential fines and legal actions. B. No action required as existing properties are grandfathered in. C. Voluntary compliance within a 5-year window. D. Register the property as a historical site to avoid compliance. Answer. A. Immediate closure of the property until compliance is achieved, with potential fines and legal actions. Explanation. If a commercial property in Florida is non-compliant with environmental regulations, the owner is required to take immediate steps to comply. Failure to do so can result in the property being closed, along with potential fines and legal actions against the owner for non-compliance. Question 49. What are the requirements and implications of a bulk sale in Florida real estate? A. Special permits required from the state. B. Involves the sale of multiple properties in a single transaction, requiring careful due diligence and compliance with specific reporting requirements. C. Only applicable to residential properties. D. Buyers must pay in cash only. Answer. B. Involves the sale of multiple properties in a single transaction, requiring careful due diligence and compliance with specific reporting requirements. Explanation. A bulk sale in Florida real estate typically involves the sale of multiple properties or a large amount of inventory in a single transaction. It requires thorough due diligence by the buyer and compliance with specific reporting requirements to ensure a smooth and legally compliant transaction. Question 50. Scenario. A real estate investor in Florida intends to convert a historic building into a high-density residential complex. What historic preservation laws might affect this development? A. No laws apply to private property. B. Strict compliance with historic preservation standards and possible review by a historic preservation board. C. Only local zoning laws apply. D. Mandatory conversion to a museum. Answer. B. Strict compliance with historic preservation standards and possible review by a historic preservation board. Explanation. In Florida, converting a historic building into a residential complex requires adherence to historic preservation standards. The development may be subject to review and approval by a historic preservation board, which ensures that any modifications or renovations preserve the building's historical integrity.